All right, I'm going to start now. Thank you for attending. This is a VividCortex presentation focused on the launch of some of our new MongoDB features. Myself, Matt Colmoni, will be presenting and showing some of the product features, and we're also joined by Lou Nardo, our product manager, who will discuss some of the new things that we're introducing and the schedule of release. So just a quick overview about VividCortex. VividCortex is a SaaS monitoring tool that is used for monitoring open source databases. So we focus on the queries performance of these open source databases. We're built distinctly for the database, not a top-down APM type of view, but a bottoms-up view that sees everything that's occurring in the database. So it's a unique perspective that uncovers a lot of hidden problems that can only be discovered when you look in the database itself. We are, as I mentioned, SaaS-based. We use agents in order to collect data about both the host environment and the databases that we monitor. We are typically used in production. We're a production-safe tool that has low overhead, is scalable to a large environment with many hundreds or thousands of instances, collects data 24/7 in that environment. So we're not just taking a snapshot over a small period of time, but we're continuously monitoring at full resolution without you needing to turn things up and turn them down, so that if you had a problem, you can always go back to the moment when that occurred and find the data related to it. We're secure in how we collect and how we store. And we also provide a lot of controls around what you're collecting so that you can remain compliant with different regulatory oversight. And we are something I like to call lifecycle by design, meaning we're useful throughout all stages of the software development lifecycle. We provide performance insight in production to help tighten up the feedback loop between development and test in that production environment, giving developers and testers and DBAs a great window into how their application is performing, how the database is being impacted by real-world use without any risk of introducing overhead or problems into that environment. So, used in production, highly scalable, very secure, and usable throughout the lifecycle. We have over 150 customers right now in a variety of verticals, a lot of fantastic use cases amongst these organizations, and published on our website are a lot of testimonials and white papers related to them. We support the monitoring of MySQL and Postgres, Redis, and importantly for today's conversation, Mongo. Our founder is Baron Schwartz. He's the lead author of High Performance MySQL, and he's helped us build the market's most sophisticated database monitoring performance solution. And to remain the most sophisticated solution, we of course need to continue to increase the capabilities that we provide and the depth of the information that we provide. And to that end, I'm going to pass it over to Lou to talk about our new Mongo database capabilities.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for joining. I am super excited about this. This is one of our biggest releases in quite a while. There's been a lot of effort put into this. A lot of feedback from customers have been worked into this. A lot of beta sites have been helping us. And we're doing things here that we've never done before as a company. So, Matt, would you mind progressing the slide for me? I can't seem to figure out how. There you go. So, key new Mongo capabilities. I want to make clear that there's a very important feature here that the best of my knowledge, no one else can do and no other tool can do. And it addresses the #1 performance issue with Mongo. And many of you probably already know this, but index uses of Mongo is one of the key fundamental things for your fetch queries in particular. We are the first and only solution that is able to look at every single query and look at the index usage of every single query and tell you, one, how those queries are performing, but then also now whether or not indices are used. And I've seen in beta so far and just talking with customers, as soon as this feature is rolled out, you can immediately see queries that could use attention. You can address these by adding the proper indices, and you will see a meaningful impact. And that's been proven. I think the closest thing you get to this is enabling MongoDB's DB profiler. But as many of you probably know, that's not something you should be doing in production and not across your entire ecosystem. But we do it because of that ability that we have to have a low impact measurement of all the queries. We can do it all the time. To that end, we're giving complete visibility of the database ecosystem. So we're looking at MongoS, Mongo Config Server, MongoD, their application sets, et cetera, the indices and the queries. We will look at, discover, and show you the sharded clusters and the replication sets, but also monitor them for health. Like I already said, we're profiling all the queries. We'll do workload comparison before and after. So you can say a point in time or event has happened and see what's changed and what's changed the most and how has it changed all across all of the workload parameters. We're implementing for the first time ever as a company configuration checks and implementation best practices. So we will look to see that your deployment is operating or being configured the way that Mongo themselves recommend or other industry known best practices. And we'll provide sources to where we got that information. Included within that are some key security configuration settings. It's not unusual for customers to deploy a Mongo instance and not change a default setting and leave themselves vulnerable. So we will help you identify that. And many of these settings are the root cause to performance problems. All right, we do the stall and the fault detection. Again, one of the things very unique to our product, will let you know when the database is stalling and when it's getting worse. And we've got lots of charts and embedded KPIs. So real quick, since we're a SaaS company, we are able to and have the luxury of constantly improving the product and rolling out features. So many of these things that we just talked about are already rolled out in production and customers are seeing them and using them. So that query and index analysis, for example, the stall detection, the cursor operation correlation, for example, all that is now rolled out in production and was recently put out there in the past 2, 3, or 4 weeks over time. We have 2 more drops coming up. The next one is expected to be Monday. This is when you'll see that discovery of the full ecosystem with the sharded clusters and the Mongo S and the MongoD, et cetera. You'll see this in the demo because it's in our staging environment and our beta right now. So that's a net new thing we've never done as a company. And we'll be monitoring that information. That's all being released on the 7th. And then the week after that, sometime in the following week, we will be releasing this new best practices and security checklist. So let me show you what that looks like. Since Matt cannot show this to you in the demo, I'm going to show you a screenshot right here. So on the left, you see the overall page, and then I've zoomed in on the bottom and the top. So on the bottom, you'll see there's summary information. So you can see how many best practices have not passed in your environment. We are seeing that your environment is not configured the way that is recommended by some cases. Now, you may not agree with that. So you might say, you know, this best practices, that's not applicable on this particular host, or it's not applicable in general in my environment. And to that end, you can mute that, or you can suppress it. And we will look continuously and let you know if that's changed over time and you're getting better or worse. On the larger below up there in the center middle top, you can see 2 examples. So the query missing index, this will be a place where we highlight in addition to the other places you can see in the product. And then the one below that would be another example of a configuration setting. So if you can imagine a replication set, one of the recommended best practices or recommendations from Mongo is simply to make sure you have an odd number of voting hosts. So we will identify those. You'll see the severity. You'll be able to mute them or suppress them if you don't like it. You'll be able to create a report out of it. You'll be able to annotate, and you'll see it change over time and clear up over time. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Matt so he can show you the product.
All right, great. Thank you, Lou. All right, so I am in a demo environment targeted at MongoDB, looking at 1 day's data across a set of 24 hosts. Now, as mentioned, one of the things that we've done is created an automatic discovery of the topology of your deployment. So I'm now able to see in this environment that I have a cluster with a set of config servers, 1 Mongo S, supervising two sets.
Replication sets.
2 replication sets with 3 shards each. 1 in each set marked as the primary and 2 marked as secondaries. And we'll detect status changes of these things. So if something shifts from a primary to a secondary, that will be an event. If something is newly introduces a recovery node and there's a long period of sync, that will be an event. We can actually see this under the health dashboard where we're now keeping both faults and events, that we're detecting things like balancer rounds complete or replica state change. So we're just more aware of the structure of your environment and the events occurring in it. And all of these things, as with all of our events, can be sent out via integrations through email or HipChat or PagerDuty or Slack or VictorOps. So we know about the environment, and we have 24 hosts here in that environment. Now I could filter down to an individual host, or I could filter down to one of those replica sets as a quick example. When I change my filtering, I'm going to change my view of what events are currently important. I'm going to change my view of what are the top queries and what are the resources used. So now I'm looking at 1/3 of my environment in the last day, and I see some point in time where there was a big spike in utilization, and there was a spike in query performance. So I'm going to go to that time period, Let's take a closer look at what was occurring. So as I zoom into a tighter time period, I'm getting a different visibility of what are my important queries. Drilling into the profiler, I can take a look at in detail what queries we're running. And I have a variety of ways of sorting these, one of which is important and new for the Mongo environment is by missing indexes. So I can now choose things like missing indexes or slow queries in Mongo, and this will help me identify what perhaps is most available for me to optimize. So we see here this one query is missing an index. We can see the total time taken. It was executed 24 times in this time period and has an average latency of 323 microseconds. So it's fairly fast, but we capture all queries. And I'll dive into this and see that over this period of time, there have been a number of samples captured. So as we're monitoring this, we're creating aggregates for the average latency, the total time, and the count. We'll capture errors when they occur and push out the error code. Now I can see in this example that there was an error here. When we capture a specific sample, we're capturing one instance of a query being run. So I'm able to see here where this query was run from or on, who ran it, against which database. I can see the origin IP address and port to understand maybe what application was calling this, the exact time the specific query ran, and then in this case, the error that occurred. Now, if I go to one of the other samples that didn't throw an error, because there was no error, we had the opportunity to run an explain plan. And this query was filtered to by saying, I want to see those that are missing indexes because we detected in the explain plan that a collection scan was done. So we were scanning through the whole collection for information instead of relying on an index. And that was a trigger to us to say, okay, this is not indexed. Then let, if possible, us run an index analysis and decide what would be a good index to create. So you're getting some optimization information here that you can take action on. You're identifying those queries that are missing their indexes, and then you have full detail about this one individual instance of this query being executed, the query text with the literal values. So you can really do a full analysis of how this query is run. Other information that we're gathering now, and I'm just going to remove this filter, comes from the op log. From CurrentOp. So I have information about CurrentOp queries as well. Now the difference is these are queries that we're pulling off the network by doing deep packet inspection. CurrentOp queries are queries that we're pulling out by running CurrentOp. So it's going to be a different set. There may be some slight differences in here, but this is a great way to gather information about what's running currently in the environment. This is a command line tool maybe you're using or you're scraping information from into your own custom data collection. Same information is now all in one place. So you can take these multiple views. This will also give you information about locking. So I'll take a look and see what locks have been used, what time is being spent acquiring these different locks, how many times they've been acquired, how long they've been waiting for those, and if there's been any deadlocks. So if we see for the most part, there isn't any additional wait, and we can understand if things are piling up, if there's any locks that are it's becoming difficult to get a hold of, or if there's deadlocks occurring. So in addition to our traditional deep information about the queries, which has been enhanced by this view of the index analysis, being able to run explains, identify missing indexes, and all this great stuff, we're also now giving you some more information about the environment in general through getting the CurrentOp information. Now, this is just a real high-level roll-up of what's being run. Now, one thing that we're doing as we're going through here is we've been looking for areas where there's maybe problems. There's slowness, there's errors occurring, there's no index being used. Another way of finding out that there's problems in your environment is an automatic form of detection that we have called faults. So we have a patented algorithm that's running and continuously looking in the environment for execution of queries that are, I was pretty sure we had some faults in this environment. Execution of queries that are, has fallen off. So our algorithm is looking for two important things. It's looking for the concurrency of queries, and it's looking for the completion of queries. So essentially, if you experience a point in time where there's a high concurrency of queries, but a low level of completion, the server is stalled. It stopped processing with its normal capabilities for a duration of 1, 2, 3 seconds. And in that time frame, we're going to observe, is there a change in the number of queries being executed? Is there a change in the locking? Is there a change in the network traffic? The processes being run in the box in that same period of time? So we're looking across the system and all the different types of data we gather to determine whether or not there are, some culprits here that could have been the cause for this state. So we've extended this to now include Mongo. So Mongo servers will be monitored for faults as well. When you get into a situation like a fault, something that affects the server across many, many different queries. It's likely that it's not a problem with any individual query, but it's something about the environment itself, or can be better troubleshooted by looking at environment statistics. And we've taken a newer approach to this as well. So rather than just having charts that are just collections of metrics about, say just Mongo as a broad category, which we've had in the past, we have two new views. The first is the machine view. And this is just an intelligent collection of charts related to the health of the machine at any given point in time. So I'm going to filter down to just one instance. And I'm going to see, CPU utilization, disk availability, disk utilization. Just an intelligent clustering of things about the state of this machine. I can also look at some Mongo KPIs. So we have the Mongo KPI chart here, which is just a couple of core charts pulled out of the much greater set of metrics that we have. And we have thousands of metrics to help you understand the state of this environment. This will include statistics about replication, connections, memory usage, disk access, and so forth. Now, some of these things are going to be rolled up into that environment and configuration health screen that Lou was showing earlier. But there's still going to be this drill down into information in the charts. And of course, these charts are built up of metrics that we collect. Any of these metrics can then be reported on. So I can go ahead and have an alert set up to notify me when the number of active clients is over a certain amount, or the available disk space falls below a certain value. Great. So new features in Mongo, understanding the topology, understanding whether or not things have been indexed properly, providing index analysis, having the automatic fault detection now take into account Mongo server faults, and taking a new approach to charting that intelligently groups statistics about the machine or creates a Mongo KPIs dashboard with top-level information someone new to the environment should know. Lou, is there anything else that I should be displaying in here?
No, I think you've covered it well. There's many, many other features, I think, as our customers know, but they are all applied to Mongo as well. I think you covered the big, high impact items we want to make sure we cover.
Great. This stuff is going to general release. Lou discussed the schedule earlier. If there's anything new like this, we're always open to existing customers engaging in betas. If there are new customers who are observing this, we'll offer free trials, and you can contact us, get a sales rep to work with you to sign you up for one of those. The most important way of understanding how these features work is to try them in your environment and see what value they'll bring you. So I appreciate everyone's attendance. I'm going to end this webinar for now and just check really